Good morning and welcome to another podcast of Iconic Freedom, The Formula. We are talking about setting standards for accountability and responsibility in this journey of personal development. Let each care for self and all will be cared for.
And I wanted to do something a little different today. So I'm going to show a series of captures that I took from Facebook last weekend, which I think are kind of interesting because I want to explore this idea of self-interest, that motivation that we all have, the incentive that we have to do things in life. And I posit to you, I hypothesize to you that everything that you're doing it's been incentivized by your motivation, your self-interest to achieve something, to accomplish something. Now, I personally think that it's to feel good. I think that everybody is trying to find that satisfaction, if you will. So good, satisfaction, however you want to call it. But so you can see the first screen capture here. So this came from a Facebook friend that I have. And if you're not able to look at it, I'm going to go ahead and read it to you. And it says, every now and then, a person with no agenda, no ulterior motive, and no self-interest will take pleasure in helping you to succeed, grow, and live your purpose. This person will operate in love, will seek no praise, and will want nothing in return. This person is a gift. Well, I'm sure if you have been listening to my podcast at all for the last 6 months, you know that I think this is total bullshit. There is no such thing as no agenda. There is no such thing as no ulterior motive. There is no such thing as no self-interest. And whether or not you succeed as a result of somebody helping you, that is merely a byproduct of them wanting to feel good about themselves. So, and I will read through some of the other responses that come through, but I thought it was pretty fascinating that, of course there's, just all these, liberal types just dripping with emotion of, oh, they love this, oh, it's so true. These people are a gift. It's like, it's just what a bunch of crap, to be honest, because it's not true. The idea that there's no motive, that there's no agenda, there's no self-interest is ridiculous. No individual is going to make a choice to do anything. I don't care what it is. Get up out of bed, walk across the floor, go get something to eat, get a glass of water, get a cup of coffee, sit down to a meal, drive your car somewhere, go get a job, work all day, make a paycheck. All of these things you are motivated by. Now, the fact that you are not conscious of that is really on you because of the fact that you're not really paying attention, frankly, to what it is that is going on internally with you. You're not conscientiously thinking, what is it that I want to do next? And taking ownership of what it is that you want to do and being able to, without whimsically just doing things, being able to realize that there are going to be outcomes and consequences to whatever your choices are. Now, I'm not saying that those are good or bad, right or wrong. That isn't for me to decide. That's for you to decide internally what that authority is in you of whether or not something is good or bad, right or wrong for you. Not for everybody else, but for you. So when somebody starts talking about, there's no self-interest, that just is not true. There is nothing that you're doing that you are not motivated by something. If you're hungry, you're motivated to go get something to eat. Why? Because you want to feel satisfied. You want to feel good. You're looking for satisfaction. If you are thirsty, you want to go get something to drink. Why? Because you're looking for satisfaction. You want to do something kind for a friend It's because of why? Because you want to feel good about your relationship with them. You want to feel good about doing for somebody else. Now, let's say you do that. You decide, I'm going to go buy a gift for my friend, and because it's his or her birthday, and you go through all this, you go through all of these actions of going out and buying the gift and thinking about what you want to do, and you get a card and you buy the wrapping paper, and you write the card out and you wrap the gift up and you give it to them, and you have this terrific exchange, and they're very happy, and they're very happy. Their happiness is a byproduct of what you already started. Looking at the supply chain, it started with you wanting to feel good about doing something for somebody else. It's not a judgment, and I think this is the problem that happens with people, is they don't realize that this understanding for yourself is not a judgment about whether you're a good person or a bad person. It's merely an observation. And why is that important? What is important about that understanding, the understanding of your motivation? Because you create delusion for yourself when you try to virtue signal and think, oh, I'm doing this for the better good of other people. It's like, you're not. What you're doing is to satisfy yourself. You're creating a supply chain of actions that lead to satisfaction of self, by which other people are experiencing the byproduct of that. Now, again, it's not a judgment, it's just an observation. However, what it does for you personally, a couple of things. One is it helps you to realize that I am not delusional. I know that I am making a choice to go and buy a gift for somebody because that's what I want to do. Conversely, you can also say, I'm making a choice not to do something for somebody because I don't like that person and I feel satisfied not engaging with that person. It goes both ways, right? But to our scenario about wanting to buy a gift for somebody, so you want to buy a gift for somebody, you want to feel good about that, you're not in a delusion of the choices that you're making. People get delusional about the choices they're making. They are unconscientiously making these choices, and then what are they doing? They are victimizing themselves. So let's say in the scenario that you go ahead and you make a choice and you buy the gift, but then the person doesn't like it. Well, that was one of the consequences and the outcomes that were possible when you started out in this endeavor. So this is so interesting in the minutia of it, but it's so important in your life and for your own happiness. When you start the supply chain of I want to feel good about myself, about who I am as a person, because I've decided I'm going to make this choice to buy a gift for somebody because I know it'll make them happy. But it starts with me. I'm the beginning of the supply chain. I want to feel good, and this is what I'm going to do. However, one of the consequences could be that they don't like the gift. Okay, and that's their choice, right? They get a choice. You've made a choice, and they get to make a choice. What's fascinating is the intricacy of people not wanting to own the fact that somebody may not like what you are offering. They may rebuke, if that's a good word to use, or, just not enjoy what it is that you have to offer, what you have to turn over or to give. But that's okay. You need to be okay with that as a possible outcome. So what are the outcomes that are possible? They could love it. They could just like it. They could hate it. They could be angry about it. They could do all kinds of things. You don't know how they're going to respond. You hope that they're going to respond in a way that you want. But I say to you, be prepared for them to respond in whatever way they feel most comfortable. When you start extending that kind of freedom to your friends and your family, you are going to see those relationships really shift. And it's a beautiful thing because you no longer are attached to an outcome. So again, you've been listening to this podcast. You know we've talked about being attached to an outcome. I'm encouraging you not to be attached to an outcome, to start that supply chain. You know what? I really like to do this for my sister because I love her and I want her to be happy, and so I'm going to do this. I like doing that. Now, what are the possible outcomes? Well, she could hate it, or she could love it, or it might make her feel bad or angry, but none of her reactions have anything to do with me. Right? I'm just the person that decided that I wanted to do this, and the byproduct of her enjoying it or whatever expression she has or experience she has, that's just one of the possible outcomes. I'm not responsible for her reaction. I'm just offering something, and she can deny it or she can accept it. It's completely up to her. But do you see how beautiful that exchange is, and how wonderful to understand from the very beginning that you made a decision to do something, you acted in your own self-interest of satisfaction to feel good, and you took action. You were conscientiously making the choice. You conscientiously gave the gift. You conscientiously, awaited for the person to respond however they wanted to respond. And if it was what you were hoping for, their happiness is merely a byproduct of what you already started. So that you're not virtue signaling. You're not walking around going, oh, I'm such a great person because I do this. No, it's not about that. You're a good person if you're a good person. Your actions towards other people are really just about you wanting to feel satisfaction, wanting to feel good. The outcome of them being happy is a byproduct of those actions. It's not signaling virtue to somebody. Signaling virtue to somebody is then you making the judgment for others to project onto them, right? Is that you're projecting onto other people that they're going to see you as a good person. Now, let's talk about that for a minute. If you're looking to image build and to have other people see you as a good person, we're going to go back to the supply chain. Now you're doing things because you're trying to virtue signal. You're still trying to feel good about yourself, but look at the manipulation that you're playing out. Look at the delusion that you're telling yourself is that, oh, I'm a really good person. I'm better than other people because I've decided to do this. Instead of, I accept the fact that this is who I want to be in life, and I'm making this choice to do this, and I'm hoping that they enjoy the outcome, and that's the byproduct of this, but it's okay if they don't. And it doesn't mean anything different about me because they love or they don't love something. I'm still who I am. I am still the person, the good person that I see myself as. I'm still that person, whether or not they have the response that I wanted them to have or that I was hoping that they would have. There's a difference in the manipulation of making a choice and doing something to try to get people to like you or, to love you or to pay attention to you. Now, while those things are, again, those are possible byproducts and outcomes of what your choices are, but do you see the subtle motivations and self-interest? One self-interest is, this is who I am in life. I'm happy about who I am, and I'm conscientiously making these choices. Or I am an insecure person. I need people to validate me outside of myself, and so I'm going to do these things in hopes that they do. Well, you're really setting yourself up, right, to be victimized, Because what if they rebuke all those things? What if they turn away from those things? What if they reject those things? If they reject it, oh, they've rejected me. No, if you are doing it conscientiously and you're doing it in health, that's not the case at all. What they're doing is they are either accepting or rejecting for themselves. But you still get the satisfaction of having done the action to begin with. You're not tied to the outcome to give you your self-esteem. You already made that choice from the very beginning at the supply chain where you decided, this is what I want to do. Why is it that I want to do this? I think I would feel good about doing this for myself. And as a result, I get to extend my generosity of hospitality to other people. How great is that? It's lovely. I mean, it can be anyways. It can be a lovely exchange with people. But if you're using it to image build because you're insecure or you think you're better than other people, do you see the subtle manipulation in that? So speaking of this delusion, so this person decided that they were going to make a comment, and so they say, I disagree with your statement, which is fine. They don't have to agree, right? They said, I do not accept your premise. Well, I think that that's a very interesting response, that they're saying they don't accept the premise. But you can see on my response, you are free to disagree. But it's a reality and it's a fact. There is nothing, no action or statement that a person makes that is not in his own self-interest, his own motivation. Whatever he is incentivized to do, pick something, anything, and then if you're courageous, walk it back each step of the way, and you always end up at the same result. Self-interest. I say that self-interest is to feel good at its core. The byproduct of your actions happens to benefit others. But what's interesting that you see on this is that, that in order to do that, you have to go through this process and notice it for yourself. So then another person gets on there and says, you could not be more wrong. And I love this. So listen to the subtle emotional manipulation, trying to get me to think differently through emotion rather than logic and reason. It's sad, we're starting with emotion, but unfortunately, very common. Oh, okay, so now I'm being denigrated in the fact that, I'm just, I'm a commoner. I'm not anybody special. That you don't do anything that puts the benefit of someone else before your own. Oh, so her idea is that you're supposed to sacrifice yourself. That virtue signaling through sacrificing yourself. There is no virtue in sacrificing. That is just a game. It's a manipulation. And it's absolutely amazing that she is dripping with emotion. She is dripping with virtue signaling, all because she wants to sit there and try to manipulate this conversation. Oh, it's sad. And I could not be more wrong, that she's telling me you could not be more wrong. So she's already deciding that I'm wrong, which I think is fascinating. What is she telling me? She's telling me she's got a black and white world going on. She's decided everything that's right and everything that's wrong, and now she's applying that to me. Not to reality, but to me. Are you seeing the subtleness of this, the subtlety of these manipulations? And it's sad. Is it really sad? It's sad for you, but isn't it interesting that you want to manipulate me or people reading this to sit there and go, how unfortunate for you, you poor plebeian. You're not able to be like the rest of us. You're not able to be as great as all of the rest of us who are virtue signaling all of the great things that we do for other people. And we don't want anything in return for it, which you now know is total bullshit. That the fact is that you want something, and it's why you do it. So she says on here that that you don't do anything that puts the benefit of someone else before your own. And I wrote back and I said, neither do you. In your own self-interest and motivation to feel good about yourself, you take action, which as a byproduct benefits someone else. But the supply chain of feeling good starts with your own self-interest and motivational choice. You apparently pretend it's for someone else, but it's really for you. It started with you. The first choice of the path started with you. And what's interesting is that she didn't want to own that. And so it says that it starts with you, and then it says you just don't want to admit it because it doesn't play into your image building. And that's the piece. People feel, when you know this, and this is how I've viewed it my whole life, this feels like a secret that I know. And I love sharing it with people, because if it's something that you're able to integrate and you can see it, you can see the reality, you suddenly know everything that everyone is doing. It is the most fascinating thing in my universe. Every time somebody says something or does something, I know what they're doing. I know when they're BSing me. I know when they're playing games. I understand. I am not manipulated or controlled by people. I am not, betrayed by people, because I see what they're doing. I see what their choices are. I'm not judging their choices. I am deciding whether or not their choices, which impact me, are something I want to be a part of. Maybe I don't want to be a part of it, so I'm okay saying that I don't want to be a part of it. But I'm recognizing what it is they're doing. Now I'm making choices for myself. Now I have taken command of my own life. I am self-reliant and I am independent of whether or not they're doing something and the reasons why they might be doing it. People not wanting to admit it, that is an amazing thing, because you are witnessing them playing their games. You are witnessing them virtue signaling. And this is how you know they're virtue signaling. Why? Because you already know the reality. The reality is you make the choice to feel good about yourself, to have satisfaction of self. And now you're sitting here trying to BS everybody by saying, oh no, I'm doing it because, they need help. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like, what an interesting thing that you just think you're so much better than everybody else. So she writes back and says, I disagree completely. But I can see that you've never had, here we go again, you've never had the experience. Now she's getting all self-righteous and judgmental. So you don't know. Maybe one day, listen to the condescension, how she's being so condescending in her statement. Maybe one day you will. She's better than everybody else because she knows what's best for everyone, or not. Either way, we can just agree to disagree. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, anybody that says that we agree to disagree, they realize that they have lost the conversation, they have lost the debate, and that's why they're saying agree to disagree, because they can't take it any further. And why? Because they don't know themselves. They don't know who they are, and they don't understand this reality. And as a result, they don't know how to debate it. That's why a lot of liberal people, frankly, and a lot of conservatives start to escalate their emotions, because they don't know how to get out of it. And they figure if they start yelling and screaming and, ranting and everything, that it'll end the conversation. I wrote back and I said, you just don't want to be accountable for your actions. I understand, which I absolutely do. Most people don't. You don't want to be accountable. You don't want to own that you are making a decision to do something for your own satisfaction, and it just happens that the byproduct of that is the person that is the receiver of whatever that is. And then it was kind of fun because I put this little meme on there that says, fake people have an image to maintain. Real people don't give a fuck. So, a little spicy language there, but, I'm sure you're okay with it. It was really interesting that at one point I said that, you can disagree, but it will never change the reality of fact. And that is true. It is a fact. It is not something that is, an opinion of mine. People can sit there and say, well, that's just your opinion. It's not an opinion. It's a fact. I'm not talking in opinion. I'm not talking in, some whimsical idea or some theoretical thing that's going on. I'm stating a fact. There is nothing living in this world, in our universe, that is not seeking its own satisfaction. Any animal that you see walking around doing its own thing, what is it doing? It is seeking its own satisfaction, whether that's sleeping to feel better, whatever it wants to do. We were projecting whether it's feeling better, but whether it's sleeping or whether it's eating, it is seeking its own satisfaction. Trees and plants and the world in general, everything is seeking. I'm seeking the sun so that I can grow. That's how we're looking at that. We're realizing that plants and plants and trees and all the rest of that are seeking sunlight or rain or whatever the elements are in order for it to do what? I don't know. I don't know what its self-interest is. I can observe its self-interest when I'm looking at it, but I don't necessarily know exactly what that is. I know this was kind of a long podcast, but I think that this is a very important piece in the understanding of your own accountability and responsibility. When you are able to piece this together with the understanding that you own all of your choices, I really want to say it's like a secret that you hold, and there's nothing magical about it. It's just observational. But what's remarkable about it is no one can hide anymore in your universe. No one can sit there and try to BS their way through something with you, because everything that comes out of their mouth, is motivated by what? Their desire for satisfaction. Whatever that is. And we don't know what that is, but as they continue to talk, they reveal what that satisfaction is. And it's pretty remarkable when you start to put it together and you start to talk to people and you start to listen to them, that you start to hear what it is that they're doing and why they're doing it. So I utilize this thing from Facebook. Next weekend, what I'd like to do is between now and then, I'm going to hopefully find one or two examples like in a movie or something like that, or maybe one from a movie and one from like a news program, and then I want to dissect that as well. Why? Because my self-motivation is I enjoy this, and if you get something out of it, that's great. That's just a byproduct of the fact that I like to sit here and do this podcast and decipher these things, because I think that human behavior, life behavior, is absolutely fascinating.
And we are at the end of another podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. Hit that like button if you would. Share this with your friends and family. You never know what they might get out of this. If you'd like to subscribe, feel free to do so. You can do that on the website, link down below. My email is there, so if you have a situation that you'd like me to cover on the podcast, that would be awesome. I'd be happy to do that. Send me an email.